Record. So, hello everyone. This is the Authentic Life Mastery Mastermind call for January 20, what's the date today, everyone? 22nd, 2019. Thank you, Catherine. And I'm so excited to be here. It's a brand new year. We're starting off again. This is a third year of calls. And so, each year is different, and there's going to be some repeat, as I know that, mastery comes from repeating things over and over and getting even better at them. So for some of the people that are on the call, it will be a really great review. And as always, as you know, I'm constantly improving and changing things to make them even better. So what I want to do for a start is go around and ask everyone, first of all, to take a deep breath. I don't know about you, but it's been a big morning. And the breath sometimes is a lovely way to sort of clear the air, leave behind whatever you were doing the few minutes before you came to the call. Just kind of clear the air and clean the slate. And then I would like to go around and ask everyone to share about 30 seconds, very quickly. What are you celebrating? Any ahas? Just what are you feeling right now in this very moment? Who would like to go first?
I'll bite the bullet.
Oh, bite, Brian.
I'm feeling light. Ever since our last private coaching session, I've gotten a lot of clarity, and I just feel like everything's moving forward, but not quite at the pace I want yet, but it's getting there. So
Very nice.
I'm looking forward to the Masters. I'm looking forward to the cafe, and now this Life Masters. So lots going on.
Thank you for sharing. Who else? Catherine, Chantel, or Adeline, who'd like to jump in? Just 30 seconds on how you're feeling. Go, Catherine.
I feel really good. I feel amazing after the blood wolf full moon eclipse situation that happened on Sunday. I felt like it was really, impactful, and I feel really renewed and excited, and I'm working on a lot of different things and collaborating with people. So it's just really fun.
I love that. I wanted to watch the moon, and I fell asleep at 9:30 and woke up at 3 a.m. So I missed it because it was between 10:30 and 2, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
I was really fortunate because I have a skylight in my bathroom. So I just was in my bathroom, and I got to watch it without being outside where it was freezing cold. So
beautiful.
I watched the whole thing. It was awesome.
Thank you for sharing that. Okay, and Chantel, I've muted you, so go ahead and unmute yourself. Adeline, go ahead.
I'm going to tag a little bit on what Brian said after the NLP Cafe and our own private little chat. Dealing with mental health, both my mom's and my one sister. But what I'm feeling especially grateful for today is I'm helping another sister through, I'm her +1 at her mental health healing sessions. And I'm just so grateful that she's asked me to be there with her, for her. And thanks to your coaching, I just feel a whole lot more grateful. It's just awesome.
Thank you, Adeline. Thank you. My heart sings when I hear each one of your stories, whether it's something personal or it includes others, includes the moon. It's interesting, isn't it, how each one of us has something completely different happening in our lives. And I find these appreciation pieces so impactful. So thank you so much for sharing, Adeline. And Chantel, you're next. Oh, go ahead. I've unmuted you. You're good.
I'm feeling very grateful right now and rested, which is really nice. I feel like this year is going to be a phenomenal one in terms of transitions and just kind of evolution of, my business and what I'm becoming. So I'm feeling pretty good. And I really enjoyed our session last night as well. I needed that.
Okay, good. Yeah. Yay, the sessions are so powerful. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to share just very briefly, as I think it's important that you guys know where I'm at, right? So that, because we're a community. I am, I'm over the moon. First of all, I'm over the moon that we've started the calls. Preparing for these is always that interesting mix of excitement and a little bit of wanting to do a stellar job. So there's, a lot of correction going on, and I temper my perfectionist part of me and just try and do that. So it's a lot for me, and I know a lot of you are in the same boat when you're preparing for something. It takes a lot of discipline. And as I was preparing, I was noticing that all the skills that I'm using to actually get on this call today are some of the things that I'm going to be sharing with you on the call today. Because a lot of you want to know, how can I use NLP in my life, right? It's great to read it in the books. It's wonderful to know the theory. You can have conversations. You can even, practice the steps and memorize the step 1, step 2s and all the way. However, it's all about, for me, it's always been, how can I literally make this something that is tangible that I can actually use personally in my own life? So that's what today's call is going to be about. The start of the year is going to be about how do you use NLP. And so I'm going to start sharing my screen. And I want to know that you can all see this, so just unmute yourself and holler out that you can see it.
It's good.
Good. And also I want to know that you are able to use your chat box. So if you go to the chat and just put a little note there, say hi, anything, so that I know that you know where the chat box, good, it's blinking. So I'm starting to see that you're using that. So if you have questions in between, as I'm going to ask you all to mute yourselves, then you can pop that in there so you remember what it is, and we'll have some moments to have a look at those, and I'll also stop the call it a couple times throughout, and so we can have an open discussion. Sound good? I know you're saying good because you're all muted. Okay, so the Authentic Life Mastery Mastermind call number 1 for today is really on the higher level of this authentic self-mastery. What happened when I launched this program 3 years ago, it was the authentic self-mastery. And what has happened is it's evolved. And more of my clients are coming on board, and they want to be an entrepreneur, they want to be a coach, trainer, leader, speaker, and apply the skills in business as well. So what I've done this year is I'm now going to be focusing on the self-mastery as a separate unit. And the self-mastery is all about you and how do you use NLP in your own life. And there's going to be a second component coming out later this year called Authentic Business Mastery. And that's going to be more specifically around launching a business, relaunching a business, how do you get clients for a business, all the systems and processes that go along with doing a business, everything from how do you get a license to keeping track of financials, getting clients, serving clients, building your business, and then taking it even international. How do you do that? So that's all the business mastery, and I realize that they're two very unique set of skills, and not everybody wants both. So I'm splitting those out rather than combine them. Excuse me for a moment. So what you're going to be learning here is really quite simple on the surface, and that's really how to coach yourself. And I have found that, I've told the story many times how I was in the room in England, John Grinder was on stage. It was about day 13 of a 15-day training, and he had said the word autonomy, and it rang so true for me that I realized right then and there that NLP was the model for me, as I had been looking for skills that I could coach myself my whole life. I didn't know it, obviously, till later in life, but really that was what I was wanting. And one of the reasons is I like my freedom. I like to be able to just fix whatever's going on if it's not working and move on quickly. I like quick results. I like to live life fully. And anytime I felt bogged down and had to ask for help, or, it took a long time to do research, I lost interest, and I would just fall back into my, unhappy place and never really get anywhere quickly. So that was really the impetus that got me going in terms of how can I use NLP to coach myself? And it was that word by John Grinder that I realized this is it. So it is simple once you know how, but therefore it's not always easy. And I know you've heard this saying before. So I'm hearing somebody is not muted. If you could just check that you have your mute button pushed on there, that'd be great. The practices that I'm going to be sharing with you today are based on NLP core principles. You know many of those already. I'm also adding in some other modalities that I've tested. I've been using this in my own life. And it's one of those things that when you use, like I've been working on this since I was about 15, literally. I remember one of the first books that I was given by a friend on personal development. And you guys know this, that as you work on something and get really good at something, it sort of sinks into your unconscious and you don't really know that you're doing it. So when I say it's simple, it's after 20 years of personally testing that this stuff really works. I had to take some time to dig out what it is that I was doing. So the skills that I'm going to be sharing with you specifically on this call today is something that started to take form about 4 years ago. So 6-7 years after my NLP training, this is something that I realized was missing, and I put this together for you today. So really what I'm doing is I'm sharing my secrets. These are the things that I do, and I generally don't tell anyone about them. I have shared some of this on social media, and I will be referring you to that so you have another reference point. I'm not sure a lot of people are really paying much attention on that. However, it was more of a way for me to start getting this information out to people and start helping them. So, these practices are what I do every single day, really to get the results, like I said, in my own life, and literally to live my dream. I know for a fact if I didn't start this 4 years ago and continue working on this every single day, I wouldn't be where I am now. As for those of you that are in business or of people in business, there's some critical points that most entrepreneurs don't get past: 2 years, 5 years, and 10 years. So when I think back, this system I'm showing you today started about that 5-year mark. After 2 years, about 80% of entrepreneurs quit or get bored or just don't make enough money quickly enough. At 5 years, it's another critical point where it gets to be complex and requires hiring people to support you or finding systems and processes that can accelerate what you're doing. So I kind of got at that stage, and there was two things going on. There was both me feeling overwhelmed with everything I was doing, and then my business was getting much more complex. I'll talk later in another call about my mistake that I made 5 years ago. However, it was really about what could I do for my own well-being and state, because I'm, putting 10, 12 hours a day into my work, and I wasn't, feeling healthy. So these skills are these are mine, but all successful people have some kind of processes or systems that they follow just about every single day. The difference is they don't share, ever. 2 reasons. One is they often don't know. They don't realize that they're doing them. They figure it out. They put into practice some behaviors and some, ways of maneuvering through the world, but they don't really know it. They just know that it really works, and they can work very efficiently and very fast and get the job done, but they don't think to share it with other people. They don't think it's important. Or they actually know, and a lot of people in the transformational industry will be in this category, they actually know they've got some secrets. They know that what they do is what other people are looking for, and they don't ever share it, or they share it in bits and pieces and not the whole piece of the puzzle. Hence the little diagram there of the pieces of the puzzle. So, you know, this is what I'm doing, is sharing with you my secrets. And like any secret that's shared amongst friends, I'm going to gracefully ask that you honor my secrets by keeping them between you and me. Now, of course, amongst our group, we're going to be talking about what I'm going to be sharing with you these next 12 months, and in particular with today's call. However, I would ask that you don't, use these patterns with your clients, or you don't share this on social media, or without any permission. You know, maybe there's an opportunity for some collaborations. That sounds great, but I just ask that you don't do that, okay, without permission, without asking me first. And the reason why is I want to share these skills with you so that you can get the results that you want in your life as well. Does it make sense? Because it's really your turn to receive. If you ever haven't had someone who's shared as openly as I do, I think it's your turn. All right, so it's your turn to receive, and I want to give. So if you haven't already got a pen and paper, please do, and we're going to get started. What I'm going to be sharing with you today is my holistic morning rituals. This is what I do just about every day when I wake up in the morning. There are some days that I don't, and there isn't any one reason why. It could be a number of things. However, I do set the intention before I go to sleep at night that in the morning I'm going to have some time set aside to be able to sit down and do these morning rituals. Now, I know you probably already have questions, so write these down and pop them in the chat box. And let's see if there's anything in the chat box. Can I look in there and see? There we go. Okay, it's just a hi and howdy, so we're good. If there's anything that comes up about what I'm sharing, that's where I want you to put them, okay? So let's get started. Slide number 16. The first thing you do is, as you wake up, you're going to capture your dreams. Now, there's a whole field of study around dreams. And I listened to a radio show the other day about lucid dreams and about the importance in some cultures about replaying your dreams when you wake up in the morning. There, in fact, are some groups of people in some countries that get together as a group in the morning, as a ritual themselves, as a group, and they share each other's dreams, and they base their day and what they're planning in regards to what they dreamt. So they often will share the dreams as a group. I have found that, and this is, by the way, I'm taking a side note to say that where I learned the importance of capturing dreams is, again, through John Grinder. He talks a lot about the importance of dreams. But who hasn't woken up in the morning with an amazing dream that you've dreamt the night before? A lot of the time, the dreams that we remember are intense. And it's like we were right there. We felt as though we were in the dream. And some people would evaluate a dream as being scary, right? Or frightful. However, when we realize that it's just a dream, it really helps to diminish the power of it. So what I want you to do is know that the dream is just a dream, that it's your unconscious providing you with a summary of what's going on and what it's processing while you're sleeping. And it's giving you clues and answers to any questions that you have at the same time that you may not really have paid attention to if you've never done any kind of dream work. So I'm going to elaborate a little bit more on this when you have some questions and in future calls. So I want to keep to the time frame we have today and just give you the steps on what I want you to do, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the nuances and the different ways that dreams present as well. I'm hoping that we'll have an opportunity for some of you to share a dream or each of you, so that we can look at the dream as a story and what is that dream trying to tell you, okay? Hope that makes sense. So what I want you to do in the morning is when you wake up, I want you to, before you do your usual jump out of bed, I want you to just pause and notice if you can remember the dream. You might actually even wake up in the middle of it if an alarm goes off. Often that happens. Some of us on the call happen to be in jobs where we sort of can sleep and wake according to our natural cycles. Some of you, and I still wake to an alarm because I have a husband that wakes to an alarm. So, you know, it will vary, in other words. So what I want to do is ask you to set aside some time the very first thing in the morning when you wake up. And this can be only a couple of minutes to just lay in bed. If anything, don't even move from the position when you first wake up. And do your best to allow your brain to present to you an image of what it was you were dreaming. Okay? So that's kind of the first step. It's not here on the screen, but it's something that you need to do. Take that time to pause. Then you might play the movie a little internally. Another dream may come up. So just sort of start to notice those dreams. And continue doing that for a few moments. And by the way, if nothing comes up at the beginning, stay with it. Something might come up 20 or 30 seconds into this practice. Anytime you get thoughts of my list of what I need to do today, use that technique of dropping your tongue, and if your eyes are open, kind of go peripheral, and then close your eyes after you've silenced that inner dialogue, and see what happens, okay? Then you're going to do whatever you need to do, as most people do when they first wake up. And then I want you to go to your journal, your book, whatever you like to write in. I have a special place where I sit down every morning, and I sometimes light a candle, not always. I sometimes put music on, not always. However, I have a specific place I go, so it works as though it's an anchored place. And I pull out my journal. I use the same journal for this. My Holistic Morning Rituals is only in one specific journal. My pen is there. It's all handy. It's tucked away. And I start to write my dream out. I want you to write it out in first person. So it will sound like I am sitting on a dock and I'm fishing. I'm in a room and I'm looking for an exit. I'm on the top of a mountain. You get the drift. So you're going to write it out as first person, okay? And you're going to carry on doing that and just write out for the first few times. I just want you to write the dream out as then I did this and then I jumped over here, and then you might have had a character in your dream. So what I want you to do with that is I want you to start to interpret the deeper meaning of these other obstacles or characters in your dream. If you see a person, if a person presents themselves in the dream that's got a name, it's your brother, sister, mother, Joe, or whoever it is, I want you to know that the dream is not about them. Okay? It's still all about you. However, there's something perhaps about the relationship that you have with someone who has the characteristics of this other person that you could be working through in your life. And your unconscious will present to you an image of this person who you know to give you a reference, to give you something to notice, to pay attention to. What you're wanting to do is not to start imagining that this person that's coming up in your dreams has in any way a specific, an identity role, if you will, as who they are in real life. Now, the sidebar is people do dream in tandem. This person that is coming to you in your dream could in fact be having a similar dream as you. The thing is, you don't know it. So what I want you to do is not start to believing that this person is the identity of this person is this story. Okay? I want you to go a little deeper. What are the qualities of this person? Are they seen, and what is the relationship that you have with this person? In other words, Let me just go back. I think relationship comes up here. So in terms of, is this person that's in your dream, do you relate to them in everyday life as a partner, as a friend, as a leader? Do they have certain qualities that maybe you aspire to or you wish to not model? So I want you to more so consider these people that are showing up in your dreams, more so in terms of the quality of that they represent. It could be an animal. Is it a fox? Is it a moose? Is it a bear? Is it, what kind of an animal is it? And how does the qualities of that animal impact you in your life? And a lot of times the dreams that you're dreaming are related to the day before or the day that you're going into. That's my experience. So also noticing the verbs and actions. Are you running? Are you stuck? Are you packing a bag? You know, what are the actions that you're doing in your dream? And what is a metaphor for that? So if you're packing a bag, let's just say, what is happening in your real life that you're wishing to maybe pack away? Or maybe that you're wanting some more movement, because packing a bag indicates traveling and indicates making some sort of move. You see where I'm going with this is the sky's the limit on terms of how you interpret this. So your interpretations are all going to be unique, and they're going to be based upon you, your own circumstances, what's happening in your life, and your ability to see your life from that third perspective. And observing this movie is, what is really happening here, and what is the deeper meaning of this? Okay. So I'm not going to get too deep in this, and I also have an ebook that I'm going to send you after when I send you this recording. That's going to get a little bit more detailed in the dreams, and I would say the dream capture is the one piece that may be newest to some of you. So I've added the ebook to make it a little bit more information there. So you're really wanting to weave the lessons and the learnings from the unconscious into the conscious. This step of the holistic morning rituals can take you anywhere from 10 minutes to a minute. It all depends on how many dreams you had. Did you have any dreams at all? And how much time you want to write those out. So it's a thing that you can decide on how much time you have. If you want to start off by setting aside 30 minutes in the morning, that will give you ample time to capture the dream. Also, if you wake up and you know or get a sense you had a dream and you don't remember the dream, when you're writing in your journal that day, you would write that you had a dream. So just confirming, yes, I had a dream. You could write, I don't remember what it is. And that's good. That's going to help you become more, develop the habit to ask your unconscious to give you more dreams, okay? So everything you do to try to remember your dreams and or acknowledge that you had a dream is going to eventually start activating that dream awareness and capture. I hope that makes sense. The next step in the rituals is the setting context-based outcomes. Now I just realized I've got a typing error on there. Oh, I have a question. Is this in bed before you get up or at a different place of writing? Very good question, Adeline. It can be either. I prefer to get out of bed. I always generally look for reasons to get out of bed. If, however, you find that delay between getting out of bed and, doing some maintenance, if you know what I mean, and then getting to a place to sit down to write happens to interfere with your memory recall, then I would suggest doing it in bed, right? Especially those of you that have animals that need caring, they are going to be there immediately as soon as they hear that you're up. And by the time you feed the dog and, you may have not remembered. Your dream may have wisped away. So certainly it's whatever works. Okay, and I realize I have sunrise rituals still. That's what I used to call this initially. So the next step 2 is context-based outcomes. So you're going to decide for today what outcomes that you want to achieve. And remember, from your NLP practitioner, outcomes are not goals. Goals are more specific. So outcomes can be something more about organizing my office. Cleaning up in the summertime, it might be taking care of all the yard work. So it's not getting specific. It's more at a higher level and context-based. So one context might be at home, one might be business, one might be in relationships. So it's really important that when you set an outcome, you're aware of the context that the outcome is going to play out in, if that makes sense. So pay attention to that. You're going to choose 1 to 3. So depending on your day, you may have one outcome that's been on the shelf for some time. Maybe it's even been on your journal yesterday or the day before and you have not achieved it. And you're going to set aside the majority of your focus and time to completing it. It's up to you. I find if I get more than 3 outcomes, again, because they're at a higher level, then it's a lot to expect that I could accomplish those in one day. You, however, might find that your outcomes are at a not as complex, and so go ahead. Play around with that number. I want you to write down each outcome in a sentence. Today I'm going to, and write it all out, okay? So very simple. The third step is setting daily intentions. So remember, we did intention setting throughout the practitioner. We did some of that on the Start Living Your Dream workshop. And for the most part, those intentions were very high level, very big, more the dream kind of intentions. With the morning rituals, I want you to think about for today. So let me go back to the simple example of taking care of the yard work, making sure all the yard is, the weeds are gone, the grass is cut, all the things that go along with doing that. The intention is so that when my visitors come tomorrow, let's just say, that they're going to enjoy seeing a beautiful landscape. So the intention is more daily. Okay, makes sense? So it's on a lower level. So it's still talking about what it is that you want and more specific to the day. Also, I want you to do a check if you've written out 2 or 3 outcomes, 1, 2, or 3 outcomes. Are your outcomes going to support the intention? So if one of the outcomes, again, I'm going to use this landscaping metaphor, if one of the outcomes that you set was to go shopping for some new clothes, is that going to support your intention of having the landscaping and the yard all looking beautiful? Maybe not. So maybe that outcome is going to go on the next day. Does that make sense? And it's all about sometimes prioritizing those intentions, right? You start to understand how that works. I'm going to do one more and then I'll open the lines for some questions. The next step is deciding on what your states and rhythms are that you want for the day. Now, some people would say that, well, Jackie, haven't we been told that states are flexible, they're dynamic, that we're going to be constantly moving our changing our state depending on the context we are entering into. So when you're home alone and with your dog or your cat or your partner and you're in a particular state of just being really caring and compassionate and loving, and then you're going to get in the car, so now you need to be more focused and paying attention. Then you get to the office, maybe it's more of a attentive listening, mentoring, leadership sort of states that support that kind of behavior. And then you're meeting a friend for lunch and you want to be happy and upbeat. So yes, obviously your states are going to change throughout the day. So this one is the one that I find a little interesting. What I do is I go back to my outcomes. Because yes, I am going to, and you're going to want to be able to be flexible throughout the entire day. Going back to, though, what you wrote about the outcomes, getting that landscaping all, the yard all cleaned up and looking beautiful. What state is going to support me? Well, high energy, right? Absolutely focused. So I don't get sidetracked and start cleaning a closet, because it's kind of in the same category of cleaning and sorting, and right? So it's very important to identify the state that you want that's going to support one of your outcomes, or at least maybe all of your outcomes, depending on what it is. Also, the rhythms. I really have found that, for me anyway, and I think a lot of you can agree, that a body has rhythms. The heart rate contributes to the rhythm. How your body is postured will, how much tension is in your body or no tension. How relaxed are you? The rhythms that you carry throughout your day are going to be what's helping you staying balanced, healthy, and being fully aware. The body loves symmetry. The brain and the body, when it's in sync and it's moving together. So it's not really possible, maybe it is, to be focused and maybe working at a lightning speed. I don't know, maybe. I'm just wanting you to pay attention to that your states and rhythms kind of make sense, right? So that there's some symmetry happening there. So I am going to see if I can unmute you. How can I do this? So Adeline, Brian, Chantel, and Catherine, have I unmuted you? No, it didn't work. Yes, it did. So anybody have something they want to contribute or a question?
I have a question, Jackie. I'm a little confused between the outcomes and intentions, like the big difference. Because you said, I think, an outcome would be cleaning the house or organizing your workspace. But then a daily intention is what you want for today. And then you said landscaping. So to me, I'm confused. Would that not have been an outcome as well?
Oh, maybe I didn't make that clear. Yes, the outcome is to take care of the landscaping, the lawn, the yard work, etc., right? That's the outcome. So it's having the yard, the flower beds, the grass is cut, the sidewalks are swept. That's the outcome. That's all done by the end of today. That's the outcome.
Okay.
The intention for that outcome is so that when my guests come to visit, they will enjoy seeing a beautiful yard. They will see the beautiful flowers. They will enjoy, because who doesn't? I mean, people like to see a yard that's kept well. It just is pretty, it's beautiful. See the difference?
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So with organization, I find this is one that a lot of people, they're either naturally organized, everything is constantly in its place, or they're really not organized, very little is ever in its place, or they're in between. And so the outcome could be to organize a specific room in the house that day. The intention for that can vary. It can be so that when I walk into the room, I can find what I want quickly and be more efficient. Or it could be my intention is, so when I walk in the room, I feel more relaxed. I feel like there's more order in my life, and it just feels so much better when I can walk in a room and things are not all laying around. You see the difference?
Absolutely.
Great, good question. Anyone else?
There's a little something missing for me with the difference between a goal and an outcome, because to me they're that close.
Yes.
So I'm having a bit of a difficulty seeing what's the difference between the goal that I want and the outcome that I want.
Very good. I like this question as well. So let's use the same metaphor, example of the lawn being nice and neat and tidy. The goal is pick all the weeds in the flower pots, get the hoe and or the rake and rake the flower beds, cut the grass, including the side yard. You see where I'm going with this?
So
It's more specific. You're also going to perhaps put a time frame.
Steps within a
Yes.
desired outcome?
Yes.
Okay, see, I was thinking as goal as more broad, more.
Yes, I know. And a lot of people think that way. And I find for myself that that confuses a lot of people. So the goal is much more specific. If you were to Google SMART goals, have you ever heard of SMART goals?
Specific, measurable, time, all that stuff, yeah.
Exactly, you see? So the outcome is, at the end of today, the yard is going to look all neat and tidy. The flowers are going to be all, you know what I mean? Everything's watered, it's all perked up, it's going to look good, right? The goal is, that's when you get specific. That's when you measure it. That's where it's attainable. So it's not part of the goal to be, well, that back patch is really weedy. I think we're going to dig up all the grass and put down new sod. So that's not attainable in one day, typically, right? So you want to check that your goals are measurable, attainable, realistic, timed, etc. And that at the end of it, you'll achieve the outcome, and then it'll satisfy the desired intention. So it is a hierarchical way of getting things done. Make sense?
Okay, yeah.
Good. And I'm using personal examples as this is, the personal side of things, the self-mastery side of things. So, of course, if you're saying to yourself, well, I kind of got my personal all locked down, then go ahead and use the same principles for something in business. Okay. We're going to move on to the next slide. The fifth step is ecology, and we all know this from the practitioner training. I love doing this training with people that have been through the practitioner training, and that is this outcome good for you? You. This is important. So if you're writing down outcomes in your journal, and that outcome does not benefit you in some way, and if you're doing that repetitively over time, that your outcomes, your goals are all about helping someone else, you're going to burn yourself out, you're going to feel unbalanced, you're going to lose who you are. So if having this yard cleaned up isn't important to you, it's not good for you, it's not something that you really care much about. However, your partner wants it that way. You could say, well, you know what, it's good for me because I want to help my partner. If, however, you're only doing it to satisfy the guests, let's just say, that are coming, and you're continually, and this happens with a lot of moms, this is the super mom syndrome, that their goals and outcomes are generally all about other people. It's having the house clean and having, all the kids looking all great and wonderful, and the meals have to be absolutely perfect. And, it's sometimes the check for the ecology is first to check, is this good for you? Or can some of this be left? Can you have a really fun party and have a messy yard? Absolutely. I've had them a lot myself, right? So just check in with that when you're deciding on your outcomes. And if it's not ecological for you, how can you make a few adjustments? Maybe you hire someone. Maybe there's a teenager down the street you can call over and pay them, $15 an hour to come and do all that heavy work, right? And obviously, is this good for others? And using the example where we've been talking about, yeah, I would say other people are going to really enjoy seeing the beautiful yard. And also, when you're talking about others, I want you to consider who specifically. So in the example, you're inviting 10 people over, and maybe half of them don't really care, but there's a couple people in the group that it's not about impressing them. It's not about being any better than anyone or keeping up with the Joneses. It's that you have maybe a best friend who really enjoys seeing a beautiful garden. Or maybe they've been in a situation in life where they're feeling, a little low, and maybe seeing a beautiful flower garden would cheer them up. So there's some things about who specifically are you doing this for to think about. And also, I want to mention that can be very broad. So one of my ecology pieces that I write down is specifically for people who are going to be impacted by the work that I do, because a lot of my morning rituals are a combination of personal and business. So I have a more broader statement that I put down in terms of who specifically is my outcome for that day going to be helping or benefiting, okay? So it's just something to think about. Okay, step 6, specific behaviors. So these are habits, obviously, that we all have habits. We have great habits. What are some great habits that we maybe have forgotten we have that, we can call upon? And what are some patterns that we have? And also, maybe these behaviors and patterns are things that we're not going to be really great. Maybe you have a habit of procrastinating when a job is too big. It gets overwhelming. And your pattern is you write down a list of what needs to be done, then you start to feel overwhelmed, and then you start to feel like you just can't move. So then you decide, well, maybe I'll just do a little laundry first. And, and then you start doing little tasks, or maybe you go to the yard and start doing one little thing, and, by 3 o'clock, you haven't really gotten right into it. And you have a pattern of avoiding just putting everything else aside because you're overwhelmed. And this is a time where, chunking comes in handy, and that's a whole coaching thing, which most of you, I'm sure, know, is how do you take a massive job, like I've just given you the example of doing an entire yard, and chunking it down into manageable steps. And that's where outline the goals come in. And you make, step by step what needs to happen. You can put times down next to it. You can divvy that out, or give those jobs, assign those jobs to, others if you have a family, etc. So just noticing your patterns as you're sitting down there in the morning and go, yeah, I kind of have a habit and a pattern of avoiding these big jobs, and I don't really ever get them really completed. What is it that you need to change in order to accomplish that, okay? Another big one, too, about behaviors when it comes to doing something like this is mannerisms. Are you the kind of person that goes with the flow, or do you get kind of snippy about when you're working with someone on a big job that they're not doing it your way? And you might start to kind of correct others, which can interfere with getting it done. Just get it done. So these are kind of mannerisms as well that kind of play in to outcomes at times. Just kind of pay attention to that, okay? I also want to share something at this point to remind you of Okay, where is it? I'm going to pull up a new screen and share this one now. I guess I could have used the same one. Okay, wait a minute. Did that work? Nope. Are you seeing the new behavior generator? Somebody could put a note in the chat box. Are you seeing the PowerPoint or the behavior generator slide?
Behavior generator.
Okay, lovely. See, I'm seeing something different. Okay, so remember in your practitioner, you did this exercise, the new behavior generator. This is a fantastic pattern for self-coaching. It's very simple. You can do it step by step. Identify the new behavior that you want. So if the behavior is to, as you're working through this job of cleaning up the yard, you're going to have, your behavior is that you're going to have a list and you're going to stick to it. You're going to check the list every 30 minutes. How are we doing? As you do things, you check them off. You're going to, so you're going to finish one job before you maybe start another. That's kind of a behavior. Some people start 10 jobs at once, and then they're trying to, finish them. And that could be something that works for you. So just kind of be aware of what's working and what's not. So identify the new behavior that you're wanting. Build the resource anchor with components of behavior. This is where you go back in memory, recall a time where you had the behavior that you want. You set an anchor. You can do that like self-anchoring, any kind of way, some kind of physical anchor with a body part. Then, or you can use, well, you will be stepping in actually. Also, you can stack or chain the anchors if it's something that is a little bit bigger. You can then create a movie where you see yourself living out the behavior, and you do that dissociated, right? So first you anchor it, and then you create a movie, see yourself doing it dissociated. You do a little unconscious congruency check. Unconscious, is this good for me? And going to be good for the rest of the people in this outcome that I'm wanting to achieve? And then you step into the movie to fire the anchors. So you're seeing it, and then you've anchored it, and when you keep the anchor pressed wherever you've placed that on your body, as you step into this movie, you're bringing the visuals with the auditory and the kinesthetic together. While you're in there, you ask your unconscious to take responsibility for implementing it. Okay. And then it doesn't say here, but I personally would step out. So test either way. Well, basically what you do is play the movie in the future of you actually doing the behavior in first position. So you could stay where you're where you've stepped in, or you could step out and play the movie. And this is a little bit of future pacing, which is actually another one of the steps. But I wanted to take a side step here. And I have used this. It's not something that I maybe have all the time to do, but there has been some moments where I see myself writing down outcomes, the same outcome every day, and I'm not achieving it. And so after 5 or 6 days, I might think, what's stopping me from getting this done? And then I'll analyze that I have a particular behavior that's stopping me. So it could be a behavior of being easily distracted throughout the day. And, maybe there's a little TV that I wanted to catch. And it doesn't fit within my outcome, but I find myself being drawn toward watching the television. So these are all little things that I want to, especially at that point where I've been setting a goal or an outcome, and I'm not achieving it. So now I think if I just hit this, then you should be seeing the PowerPoint again. Is that right? I'm going to assume you can see the PowerPoint. So the next...
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So the next step is future pacing consequences. This is the piece that is magic for me. I want to actually unmute the lines for a moment, or ask you all to unmute yourselves, because I know you know how to do that. And I'd love to hear from the group, who here finds that they future pace very easily? We're almost done, by the way, because I realize, how are we for time? Oh, my watch says 2 a.m. Okay, I'll use my... Who would like to comment on, do they future pace easily? Meaning that you're very easily and quickly are thinking about tonight, tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, March, April, September, December, in the future.
I tend to, but I don't really act on it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, anyone else?
Yeah, it's kind of same thing. I find it easier to when I'm practicing with someone to ask them to future pace the consequences, and then tend to forget about doing that when I'm working with myself.
Right. This is, I've realized that I've, for some reason, been someone who's done this naturally. I don't know why. It could be from my upbringing and taking care of taking care of the family at a very early age, and always, being responsible at a very young age. And if you guys could all mute your lines, that'd be really great. My mute button is not popping up. Oh, there it is, actually. Okay, thank you. So future pacing, the consequences of what it is that you're doing to ensure that it's all in alignment. Is this all going to, at the end, work out? Is this going to meet my intentions? Are my outcomes going to be achieved? And also, by visualizing and seeing yourself acting this out throughout the day, you start to program your brain to give you the triggers, to give you the cues, and also the SOS signals when you're not doing it, or the SOS signal of confirming, hey, you're on track, you're doing what you said you were going to do, yay. So this, I find, is a really powerful practice to get better at and better at. It's about seeing yourself doing what it is you're going to be doing. Sounding it out. Let's say you're doing a presentation. Now I'm going into business a little bit. Let me stay away from the business. But it could be a conversation that you want to have with a partner or a friend. You're meeting them for lunch. You imagine yourself in your mind, seeing yourself driving to the restaurant, getting out of the car, walking in. Are they going to be there before you, or are you going to be there before them? That actually gives you a chance to decide, maybe I'll go a little early. I kind of want to be picking the seat. So all these things could play out in your mind, and then you could sound it out. What am I going to say to them? What's it going to sound like? What tone of voice do I want to use, right? So you can use this future pacing so easily. And also, does it feel right? Does it feel congruent? Is what I'm planning to do feel congruent? It gives you a chance to sort of check in with yourself, right? And get signals from your unconscious if not. If there's too many unknowns, well, I don't really know those answers because it's like 7 o'clock in the morning. So then you could, as an option, and I like doing this, by the way, on days where I don't maybe have a lot of business things to do, where it's more of a play date or a play time where I can kind of free flow what I'm doing that day. I might create a metaphor for what the day is going to be like for the unknown. I don't know how today's going to be. I'm actually not going to do any work today. I'm going to go and I'm not going to do any lawn work, or I'm just going to let the day fall into place. What will that be like? And what will a metaphor for that be like? So it could be a metaphor of, setting out to sail without really having any time frame. You have a destination, you kind of know where you want to land at the end of the day, but you're just going to take your time and maybe sail a little slower than you normally would. So that kind of thing. Step 8 is authenticity in motion. So this is your aim. Moving is so critical. If you're not doing something throughout the day to move, your body is going to, the muscles start to atrophy. And when your body starts to atrophy, your brain will start to atrophy. And if any of you have health as a number one value, this one is going to be really important to you. So think about, how are you going to move? What is it that you're going to do? Are you going to run, walk, dance, get on the treadmill? I have a rowing machine, so I set aside 20 minutes for rowing every day. When are you going to do it? So put some time down in your phone, if you will, so that it pops up with a reminder. How long? So put some time frames. So this is a little bit more specific. Step 9 kind of wraps everything together. It's this inner guide step to ask yourself for wisdom and support. Definitely doing the end step is what I do. Now, noticing it, and I'm going to talk very quickly because I know we're at the top of the hour. The end step is got in letter N for a reason. It's so that you can actually do this step in less than 6 steps or more. But typically, when you use an intensive definition, an intensive means it's at a higher level. So it's extensive means you're listing specifics, which you might be doing with some of the other patterns using the end step that you're aware of. This one is more so about unconscious. You're aware of what it is that I've put down now in my journal. Will you support me today? in accomplishing what I have written down. So it's very intensive, but the unconscious knows because you've got it all written down. Everything you do consciously, the unconscious also knows. It's like it's a mirror. It's like it's always watching. It's the fly on the wall. So it knows it. You don't have to tell the unconscious again. And it's a lot about trusting that your unconscious is actually part of you. It is actually who you are. It's the wiser, deeper part of you that's supporting you. And by closing that loop every single day, closing that, creating that relationship, this is where the real magic starts to happen. So that wraps up the 9 steps. Whew. I'll come back to you with more. I do want to be respectful for your time. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to end the recording, and so that the recording is the time frame that I promised it would be. So I'll stop the recording.